Welcome back. The big question tonight, New Zealand versus who? Will it be India? New Zealand have become the first team to qualify for the final of the 2015 World Cup. The Kiwis beat the Proteas by 4 wickets earlier today in the first semi-final at Eden Park in Auckland, chasing 298 for a win after their target was revised by the application of the Duckworth-Lewis method. The Kiwi charge was led by skipper Brendan McCullum, who scored a fluent 59 despite losing quick wickets. The Kiwis made a strong comeback into the match, riding on a solid 103-run partnership between Grant Elliott and Corey Anderson. Both scored fighting half-centuries to bring the Kiwis back into the game. Brendan McCullum, Corey Anderson and Grant Elliott leading the Kiwis to a win with just 1 ball to spare. What a thriller this was. New Zealand is through, but all eyes are now on India versus Australia. India's stylish batsman Virat Kohli feels India can get the better of Australia in the second semi-final. He says that this is the best time for India to beat the Australians. Listen in. Virat Kohli sounds super confident. Indian fans are not so certain. The bookies are backing Australia. I want to go across to Sydney. Joining us from there is former England captain Nasir Hussain. Nasir, welcome to the newsroom. The 1.3 billion people question tonight is, can the defending champions beat the hosts? What does Nasir Hussain think?
Of course they can. The way they're playing, I saw them play against Bangladesh in that quarter-final and they were brilliant. It was the best I've seen India play in any form of cricket for a long time. Their energy levels, considering they've been out here 4 months, were absolutely brilliant. I saw them practice yesterday at the SCG. They were in good spirits. They haven't beaten Australia in those 4 months they've been out here in any form of the game. But the world champions were playing like world champions when I last saw them. And I think they'll enjoy conditions at the SCG.
You know, looking confident against Bangladesh is one thing, but against Australia, it's quite another, because India went through the entire summer without beating the Aussies even once in any form of the game. Now, the Australian players are already playing mind games with India. Would that be weighing, Nasir, on the minds of the Indian team that they haven't beaten Australia even once the entire summer? Would that be a mental block for them?
Well, that'll be for Dhoni and Fletcher to work out, that there can't be any kind of mental scarring. There can't be any mention of the Test series or Tri-series. This is a different Indian side from what took on there. These players are playing a lot better now. So they can't be thinking about what happened months ago. This is a World Cup semi-final, and any time that India play in white ball cricket in an ICC tournament, they've been absolutely brilliant. So they've got to worry about what they're doing and not about the fact that it's Australia. If they keep thinking it's Australia and we haven't beaten Australia, then they will come unstuck. That's
a lot easier said than done, though. You're in Sydney, Nasir. You've been looking at this pitch. We're told there are 2 tracks. One is a spinner's track, the other is a more green top. What's your sense? Because allegations are being levelled that the ICC, in a bid to try and favour India, is going to go in for a track that the Indian batsmen will like. That, of course, is not true. But what's your sense of which pitch is likely to suit India better?
No, I think they're just trying to prepare the best pitch for any game, to be honest. I think they've done that throughout. You name me any pitch in this tournament that's been a green seamer, there just hasn't been. It's just going to be a good pitch like every other pitch that's been. It's been a batting tournament, and the SCG pitch can be very flat. There's no grass on it, but that's the SCG for it. India can't just rely on the pitch to win them this game. I think their record at the SCG is not great. I think they've only won 1 out of 14 games there. So they can't just rely on the fact that it's the SCG and it's a pitch that might spin. They have to go out there and win that game themselves, not rely on the pitch.
Absolutely. Australian captain Michael Clarke, Nasir, has sent out an SOS to his fans. 70% of the tickets in Sydney have been bought out by Indians. He's worried that there won't be enough people supporting the team in gold and yellow. Would that make a difference? The fact that on the 26th, Sydney will look like an Indian outpost. It'll seem like Salt Lake, it'll seem like the Wankhede. Would that work against the Australian team, Nasir?
I think they're gearing up for that anyway. I think they're expecting about, what, 70% of it to be all blue, you know, Indian fans. I think any time, I know from England, when we play at Edgbaston or anywhere, when you play against India, it is like an away game. So I think Australia and Michael Clarke will expect that, they will know that, and they will have to themselves say, look, it's going to be a difficult atmosphere, there's going to be a lot of fans on the opposition side, and we've got to try and quieten those fans quickly at the SCG.
Okay, Nasir, if for a moment you were in the Indian dressing room speaking to Ravi Shastri, Duncan Fletcher, Mahendra Singh Dhoni on what the strategy to counter Australia should be, using all the cricketing acumen that you have, what would you be telling them? What should India's strategy be to vanquish the Australians?
They don't need to listen to me. They've got the finest captain probably that one-day cricket has ever seen. Just look at his record, just listen and look at the calmness of MS Dhoni, to be honest. Don't panic early like they did against Bangladesh. They were just plodding along, but with guys to come like Raina and Dhoni and Jadeja, with guys at the top of the order like Rohit and Virat and Shikhar Dhawan, etc. They've got the players, they've just got to believe. And when you've won the last World Cup and when you've won the Champions Trophy, surely they've got that belief. They must have that belief. I just hope they have a plan B with the ball, because it might not be a lightning quick pitch. So if they do bowl short to Warner and Watson and Clarke, and some of them get the hook and pull shot out, I hope they have a plan B, which could well be their spinners. So their plan A's work with their three seamers bowling quick, but their might be the plan B.
Let me for a moment, Nasir, flip that question. If you were advising the Australian team on how to counter India, what are the potential weaknesses you would be flagging up? What do you think Australia needs to do and India needs to be careful about so we don't end up losing?
There's not that many weaknesses. I think Australia will just try and do their game. I think they'll use the short ball quite a bit. I saw India practice the other day and they had a lot of short balls come up against them. I think Michael Clarke will just be focusing in on his home team, really. What he would really want is a good start. I think Finch has struggled since that first game against England. He would want to win the toss, bat, and get Finch out that door, Finch and Warner going out and smack it. If they have a good start and they silence that Indian crowd you talk about, then Australia will consider themselves in a very strong position.
Okay, thank you very much, Nasir, for joining us from Sydney this evening. This is going to be a big clash, and it will be our top focus all through the day tomorrow. We're setting up a special show where we'll have Ganguly joining us from Sydney. We'll have Andrew Simons with us in the studio. You can catch that tomorrow evening on the newsroom. But this is where we wrap up our broadcast tonight, and I want to end by putting out these pictures of this magical match today. New Zealand versus South Africa. Tears at the end of it all for South Africa, sheer joy for New Zealand, but it wasn't as if South Africa choked. They fought right down till the end. New Zealand won, but in sports, one team wins, another team loses. South Africa can go down with their head held high. They played like champions. Our heart felt bad for AB de Villiers and the entire South African team, but the New Zealand team has shown they have what it takes to go all the way. This was a match where in the end, sportsmanship won. Heartbreak for South Africa, delight for New Zealand, and they're now wondering who will be taking them on. And we hope it's going to be India. On that happy and optimistic note, goodbye, good night.